So in this segment, we're going to be talking about the UK's liabilities and the UK rejecting the amount, the 47.5 billion euros. So first we'll go through this article from Tony Connolly, where they talk about the specifics of the liabilities, and then we will talk about the UK disputing the liabilities, the amount disputed, and then we'll go on to talk about some Brexiteer takes from before the referendum, because everyone loves a bit of that. So according to Tony Connolly, the UK is liable to pay 47.5 billion euros to the EU as part of its post-Brexit financial settlement. Do you remember when they said we wouldn't have to pay anything into the EU as part of a divorce bill? And you'd think Boris Johnson, as an expert on divorces, would know about divorce bills. Clearly not the case. The figures are contained in the EU's consolidated budget report for 2020. The report states that the UK owes the EU 47.456 billion euros under a series of articles which both sides agreed to as part of the Brexit withdrawal agreement. So Boris Johnson can't get out of this. From the person I spoke to about this, who has a lot of legal expertise, credit to that person, a massive help for the channel. They're going to help me hopefully with a project regarding what happens if the UK disputes the amount, like properly disputes the amount, where it goes, arbitration, courts, all that sort of stuff. So subscribe for that. So the issue of what Britain would owe the EU after Brexit has been highly controversial, with Eurosceptics claiming that the UK would not have to pay if there was no deal, either the withdrawal agreement or the future relationship treaty. But the thing is, most of the amounts are within the withdrawal agreement anyways, that Boris Johnson signed in order to get out of the EU. That was in 2019, which they passed, and then we could have still ended up with a no deal and having to pay the EU anyways a large sum of money. So that's just these arguments here from Brexiteers and Eurosceptics are just stupid. In the early part, and to be fair, we would have had to pay off our part of the budget anyways for leaving. If we didn't, that would have caused more problems long term politically anyways. In the early part of the exit negotiations, the UK had to reach agreement on three key issues before the talks could progress to the next stage. These included the financial settlement, citizens' rights, and the Irish border. So Boris Johnson essentially did all of these things with the settlement scheme, the financial settlement, as we have mentioned, and the Northern Ireland Protocol. That's the reason why things managed to progress when they did back in 2019. So in December 2017, both sides reached an agreement on the mechanism to calculate the total amount the UK officials predicting it would cost between 35 and 39 billion pounds. But obviously that was agreed in 2017, and obviously some things have changed between now and I think that 2020 EU budget. So the OBR had predicted the total bill would be about 41.4 billion euros, but the EU are saying it's 47.5 billion euros. So again, there are discrepancies here. The OBR are independent from the government, so it's interesting that the OBR are disputing the figure as well. Therefore, the amount is significantly higher than predicted, which will impact the UK's budgeting. The 47.5 billion euros is broken down into two amounts. Under Article 140 of the withdrawal agreement, the UK is obliged to pay its share of the EU's outstanding spending commitments as of the 31st of December 2020, when the Brexit transition period came to an end. Obviously, because of the way the EU does budgets, I think it does 7-year budgets. So with the UK leaving early, we still had bills to pay. It's like if you try and get out of a contract with a gym or your internet service provider or certain contracts, if you try and get out early, they will charge you. This is known as a French word. This amount of money relates to projects, programs, agreements, or contracts which had already been committed to by the EU before the 31st of December. So these could be like infrastructure projects, galleries. The EU does a whole range of things. So this would be related to those things. The EU did build, things like theatres and I think galleries inside the UK. They also do other projects inside other EU countries. I would rather they focused more specifically on infrastructure and really helping people rather than artsy stuff. But there's nothing really wrong with artsy stuff to an extent, if you're going for a culture win on Civ 6 especially. But yeah, I guess you could always spend your money more intelligently, but that is up to the EU to figure out now. I'm just a spectator at this point. Under the withdrawal agreement, the UK's liabilities for this amount was calculated at 12.6%. So that's a percentage of the liabilities cost. So things like pensions, etc. The EU's overall budgetary commitment on the 31st of December 2020 was 303 billion euros. However, this has been adjusted down to 294 billion euros because of the number of programs the UK did not participate in during the transition period. So this has been costed down, which is, it's a good thing that the UK is paying less. And both sides agree to that. With another adjustment factored in, the UK owes 35 billion euros, and that's just for one part of the divorce bill. There are two parts here, as mentioned by Tony Connolly, who does great work, to be fair. The second slice of money relates to EU liabilities, such as pensions and sickness insurance of retired EU staff. Would be people like Nigel Farage, for example, would be one of those people, one of the MEPs, which the UK owes under Article 143 of the withdrawal agreement. So this stuff has mostly been agreed. It's just the percentages and the amounts that seem to be in dispute. But based on what the person I've spoken to had said, is that the EU typically don't get these things wrong. So it's interesting that the OBR have potentially gotten this wrong. That's my key issue with this. It's not just the British government, it's the OBR as well. Officials say the UK committed to pay its share of these liabilities, with the exception of specific liabilities noted in the treaty. So it's all been done. That's all been negotiated. The overall amount of these liabilities is 116 billion euros, and the UK share at 12.6% is 14.3 billion. That's of the pensions and things like that. So these are based off the provisional. So the figures are contained within the consolidated annual accounts of the European Union published by the European Commission, for all those people who think the accounts aren't audited. They are provisional accounts until the European Court of Auditors signs off on them in November. However, Ireland's member of the Court of Auditors, Tony Murphy, has told RTE News that this 47.5 billion figure is unlikely to change, which means that this number will most likely be the amount given, even as the accounts are being audited. So that's important. So by the looks of things, the EU have basically agreed that this 47.5 billion euros, this is the amount that the UK will have to pay as part of the divorce bill. And obviously the UK has agreed to that, but we are disputing certain things. I think probably the liabilities amount, because it's based off a percentage. So maybe we're saying certain liabilities we shouldn't have to pay for, which, that's up to the UK, but it looks like we'll probably end up in court over this, and that's going to cost a lot of money as well. Talking millions in legal fees, and then you've got to pay the other side's potential legal fees if you lose. So this might not be a fight that's worth having. So Britain does not recognise the 47.5 billion euros, Prime Minister's spokesperson has said. So there's wrangling over this, as mentioned in the FT and the Tory graph. So RT are covering this, and again, they do some good work, so we'll go off their article. Britain has said it does not recognise the European Union's estimate of the overall Brexit settlement cost, and that the total bill remained within the government's original projections, which is around 35 to 39 billion pounds, which we'll look at in a second. The EU said on Thursday that Britain is liable to pay 47.5 billion euros to the EU as part of the post-Brexit financial settlement. Prime Minister Boris Johnson's spokesperson said, "We don't recognise that figure." New figure. Who this? So they're claiming it's an estimate produced by the EU for its own internal accounting purposes, but these numbers will be audited in November, so this argument is stupid. For example, it doesn't reflect all the money owed back to the UK, which reduces the amount we pay. What figures are you talking about? Because we've given up our share in the European Investment Bank, which could be what he's talking about, because that's around 7 billion, according to Suella Braverman. So maybe that's what they factored in, because the discrepancy is around 5 billion. It's around 5 billion higher, so it could be, maybe they're thinking about the money that we could have gotten back from the European Investment Bank that we chose to give up as part of Boris Johnson's 2019 negotiations. I'm not sure what he's talking about here, and to be fair, I doubt he does either. So earlier, the UK Treasury official said the figure should be lower. So you've got the Treasury and the OBR disputing the figure. The Treasury makes sense why they would do this, but the OBR not so much. So when the negotiations governing Britain's divorce bill from the EU began in 2017, the EU insisted 3 issues would be settled: the Irish border, financial settlement, and what was the third thing? Citizens' rights, like we mentioned. And so this was the main reason that negotiations went okay back in 2019. The idea of a divorce bill running into tens of billions of euros has enraged Eurosceptics. The then Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson said the EU can go whistle if it expected the UK to pay up. Well, looks like we're paying up, and if we don't, we will be going to The Hague over this. It will go to court. So do the smart thing. If there's financial wranglings to be had, If you're in the legal rights here, go for it. If you're being an idiot, don't bother. Other Brexiteers said the UK should only pay the bill if it was granted a free trade agreement. I mean, that's not true. That doesn't make sense anyways, because the free trade agreement was a separate thing compared to our own liabilities. It's like going to your internet provider saying, I want to cancel my current contract, and then I want to negotiate a new contract. No. When you say cancel, once you've officially cancelled your contract, that's it. You've got to pay your liabilities, pay the costs that are set out in the contract, and then you can get a new contract from that ISP, internet service provider, if you want. But these arguments they're making here are ridiculous. Despite this, UK officials predicted this would cost between 35 and 39 billion. So the projections aren't that far off. According to the EU's consolidated budget accounts for 2020, the bill is 47.5 billion euros, nearly 41 billion pounds. So you're talking around between 6 billion and about 2 billion in terms of projections, because the UK's projection is quite big, which means that they're factoring in different things to get the figure they're looking at, whilst the EU are probably factoring very specific things that will remain the same. It looks like the UK is probably disputing pension amounts and other things. That's how you get such a broad range of figures. Between 35 and 39, that's a lot of money there. That's an issue. So Treasury officials have told the Financial Times that these figures are estimates and are subject to change. They're talking about the EU figures, but I'm assuming that realistically it's going to be our own figures that are subject to change, considering the EU is these numbers will be audited in November. But according to one of the auditors, the numbers most likely not going to change. So the discrepancy is around 5 billion, depending on if you're talking about the 39 billion the UK projects, compared to the 41 billion the EU are saying. So I hope that made sense to people, that basically the EU are saying you owe us 41 billion pounds in liabilities, around that amount, and the UK are saying no, we owe you between 35 and 39 billion pounds, and that's where there will be arbitration most likely to discuss the exact amounts based on the percentages agreed, which is about 12.5% of liabilities. So that's going to be the key issues. What is a liability and how much are the liabilities? And then you go off the percentage, I'm assuming. But if we look at Suella Braverman, Brexiteer here, saying that there would be no cost. Let's have a look at what she has to say, because this is really funny. I laughed. I've been looking for this for ages as well. That's what annoyed me, but we found it.
Right, and this figure of 50 billion doesn't have any legal basis whatsoever.
She's not wrong. It is, around 41 billion, but okay. This was in 2017 though, so the divorce bill would have been far higher back then, because there was more time for the end of the EU's budget.
And it doesn't seem likely that there will be such a bill for £50 billion. It's part of Project Fear. Health warning, don't believe it. We pay into the European Investment Bank, and so actually we're going to get a windfall from leaving. So I think that the scaremongering about having to pay to leave is just not true. We have a lot to gain. Our best days lie ahead.
And the thing is that annoys me is that no one, people like her who lied, won't get called out for it, because she's blatantly lied here, because we are paying the amount. Boris Johnson gave up, like this person states here, leads for Europe. Boris Johnson gave up that in the withdrawal agreement. So maybe that's the reason we're disputing it, that we're claiming we should get some money back even from the European Investment Bank. I don't know what specifically our disputes are, but the simple fact is, these people had lied. Boris Johnson, an expert, at least he should be an expert in divorce bills and divorce fees at this point, so I think he's had about 3, is disputing the figure. So we'll see what happens. It could go to court. I've got a separate project potentially coming out about this, so thanks to that person for helping me. Regardless, that person's helped me in the past as well with other video projects, and gives me a lot of great advice. So hopefully we can get that video out to you about what happens if the UK refuses to pay the divorce bill according to the EU's figure. Arbitration most likely, but I'll try and get some specifics if we have time for that, and hopefully we do, because that's important. But a simple fact is, if we have a look at the specific amounts again, sorry about that. God. The UK are saying we owe the EU around 35 to 39 billion pounds, whilst the EU are saying we owe them around 41 billion pounds. So we'll see what happens, but it does show you that Brexit mentality is still there, that we're just causing problems and disputing everything with the EU, despite the fact that most likely the EU are correct on this one. I just find it really interesting, as I've mentioned, that the OBR are also disputing the figure, but they could be basing that off government estimates. For example, they might not have all the facts. That's possible, considering that they are in line with the government, which isn't always the case. I do like the OBR. You know, they have called out Rishi Sunak about the COVID legacy and how much money is needed. Money that, that this is, divorce money that we could have used for the country, but instead we've decided to do economic suppagoo, which is something I think the Commandant actually said. It might have been him or someone else, but we have done economic suppagoo, so well done, guys. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you want to see that video on what happens if the UK doesn't pay its divorce bill up to how much the EU have demanded, then comment that and I'll make it happen. Anyways, like, comment, share, subscribe, support on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.